Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, everybody! This is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you in the month of December, since it is Christmas time and the holiday time, about Hetty Feather Season 5, A Christmas Adventure. I've never really talked about Hetty Feather before. I did mention before in the past that it's an extremely good, like, kids drama. Like, my God, it is good. Like, I could not believe just how good this show was. And you learn so much about what England was like back in the day. This is a period piece about a bunch of orphans and stuff. And they have to live in this type of orphanage. And then when they get older, they start, like, either going to the military if they're guys, or they go and work for somebody's house or something like that. Or they could find another job doing something else. And so, like, actually, because of this show, one of the actresses on here, Fern Deacon, it's because I looked her up online that I found out she was in another show that's even like more amazing than this, and it's probably the best drama ever, Ackley Bridge. And so, like, yeah, this show was amazing from season 1 to season 4. Season 4 started changing things up. Season 5 was just like a mess, a disaster. I hate season 5. Season 5 was stupid. I will talk more about all of this when I do like a rundown review and some episode reviews. Season 6 just pissed me off because it was another way just to dump on Hetty, and they didn't really set out to do what she was going to do when she wanted to become an adult. And it was only 3 episodes, so it just tied up 2 loose ends, and basically it had one tragedy that made her just say, "Screw you all, I'm gone." But yeah, season 1 through 4 is like amazing. But this Christmas special is pretty cool as well. It's a 2-parter. It's 30 minutes, or about 20 something minutes, 30 something minutes. It's about like an hour. And it's a musical adventure and everything. It was so different. I don't know why they decided to do a musical for it, but they did. But it was actually a pretty cool musical with some really good songs, some nice singing, some nice dancing. I feel bad having reviewed this episode before I review any other episode, because there's a lot of, because this is like the episode before the last 3. It reveals like a lot that's been going on, so you're gonna be kind of confused. I really wish I would have like done this show like earlier this year, but I've been busy doing like other stuff, so like, yeah, no. Also, oddly enough, this is the last episode to feature both Jack and Flo, which was kind of odd. It just disappeared with no warning, but Jack does get the guest star in the 6th season, but Flo does not. And so, like a quick little recap. So basically, Hetty Feather is like this little orphan, and her mom gave her up for like when she was like a little girl. So she was put in the system, and then when you put in the system, you live with this one family for a while, and then when you're of a certain age, you live in this orphanage type place, and you're taken care by like these nurses and like the matron and stuff like that. And you live there until you're about 16 years old, which is considered like adult age in Britain and stuff. And then you go into the workforce and you have to find a job. And if you don't find a job, you're put in a workhouse. And you don't want to be put in the workhouse. It's one of the most disgusting, dirtiest, nastiest places ever. It's like these nasty buildings with filthy walls and floors. The people who work there treat you like crap, and basically what you do is like you just do laundry. You just wash people's sheets and clothes and all this other crap. And you're basically there for life until you can find like a place to live. And like, pretty much if you're a young person and you're caught like stealing and stuff like that, you get put in the workhouse. If you're an adult, then well, I think you just go to jail. I don't think most adults work in the workhouse unless you're like higher up and stuff. And so this actually used to be a thing, like workhouses and those orphanages, and how they when your parent gives you up. See, what happens is your parent gives you up, and then if your parent wants you back within a certain age, they can come back and get you back, and they leave you with like a token that lets you know who is with whose child and stuff. But when you're there in the orphanage, they rename you and give you a Christian name and stuff. So yeah, a lot of people lost their kids and could not find them, and it was a weird thing. I think the workhouses, I think those have like shut all down, which I hope they have. I have to research that again later, but when I do, like the rundown review. So Hetty, Gideon is like her adoptive like orphan brother, and so like they're really close. And then is Sheila. They was all in the orphanage, and Sheila used to be Hetty's enemy until they started working at the calendar house in season 4. Then they all became friends. Sheila left sometime after season 4 because she thought this military dude was gonna marry her, but he didn't. And so she made this big speech about how she can take care of herself and this and that because she was too embarrassed. And so she left. And the only place she could go was the workhouse because she couldn't live on the streets. And um, so that's basically what it is. And Hetty wants to be like a writer. And the matron was also her mortal enemy who she helped get arrested. But then the matron escaped in season 5 early on. And now you're caught up. So, well, actually not all caught up just quite yet. In season 4 and season 5, a lot of craziness happens. There's a woman named Mrs. Green something or another. She's the older lady who lives there, and she's related to the Calendars, and she's a very snooty aristocrat. And she tried to take over the place with her and her daughter in season 4. She got caught and basically blamed it all on her daughter, who they don't know is her daughter, and so she got to still live there. And then in season 5, she kind of turned over a new leaf. There was this Indian boy who came in season 5. He is like really not famous, like he's wealthy. He's related to some really like richy people, and he was looking for some type of morning star, moon star thing, a diamond that like his family owned and is somewhere in England on a property. And so they spent the entire 5th season looking for that, and that's what really killed the season. It killed it so bad that the last season only had 3 episodes. So he left after he found that. There's a girl named Flo who now works there. Her father was like a thief magician type person, and he conned his way into like the family and pretended to be a butler and all this other crap. And then they got defeated, but then she decided to stay there and work. It's crazy. And so like now y'all caught up. So it's the holidays time and everybody's in the Christmas spirit, joy and everything. The calendar people, Mr. Calendar is not there. He's away at business. He is a gentleman. He has a fancy job. He is trying to regain his family's like rich reputation and stuff, because somehow they lost it somehow in a couple of years back. He married a woman who knows the matron, and she kind of had like a shady past, and she had like a son out of wedlock, and then he didn't know that, and then so like but he loved her anyway and kept her. And she's a really sweet person, and she's really one of the few people who's nice to Hetty and stuff, because Hetty just constantly gets dumped on every season. Oh, poor Hetty. And so Jack, he's like the groundskeeper boy, and he works there. Agnes, she works in the cafeteria with her sister, Lizzie, and let's see. So everybody's like getting ready. Pretty much, if you're the house staff, you live there as well, and you have to wear like your uniforms all the time. And so it's like, it sucks. You have to take all these orders and call everybody yes sir and ma'am, but you have a really nice home to live in. And this was back in like the old days when they had them really fancy like Colonel Sanders type houses and stuff. That's the only person I could think of. Like, think of Colonel Sanders from KFC, and you're a picture of what type of like people these people look like. You know, you look at his logo picture, like back in the day of the white suits and the curly like mustaches, and you know that type of era. And so like Hetty, she misses Sheila and everything, which is ironic because those two was enemies for the first 3 seasons, but then they became friends and stuff. And so she constantly keeps asking Miss Calendar, can Sheila have her job back? But she tells her, no way, because of what Sheila did and stuff. And so, but Hetty is determined to get Sheila back. So she knows she works at the workhouse and stuff. And so they're supposed to donate some stuff to like the homeless people at a church or something like that. And I think Hetty's the one who set it up. And she did that because the church is near like the workhouse. So, um, Hetty sets all that up there in the carriage and they're there. And Gideon and all of them was all like, you know, this is a bad idea. You should not do this and all this other crap. But Hetty's going to do it like anyway, you know what I'm saying? Well, also there's a bunch of musical numbers that go on in this, dance numbers and musical numbers at random. So yeah. So anyway, there's some kids running from like the police, the constable, because they stole stuff. And this time there are tons of kids who work the streets as pickpockets. When they get caught, they get thrown in workhouses and stuff because they're too young to go to jail. And back then, boy, there were so many pickpockets back in the day with that little kids. And so the girl, she ends up getting caught and taken away, but the boy, he gets away. Hetty, I forget. I don't think she make it to. No, she doesn't make it to Sheila. I don't think. Or maybe she does. I don't remember. But basically, Sheila just keeps saying she can't go back to that house after what she did and blah blah blah. So as Hetty is trying to rescue, um, no, she ain't trying to rescue nobody yet. Okay, what happened is this. So they get out the carriage and they're looking for the church, and the little boys are like, "Oh, I'll show you where it's at." And so, he tricks them and takes them into a dark alley where they get mugged by a bunch of street kids. And so they steal like the Mrs. Calendar and the older lady's purse, and Hetty runs after them. And then she trips and falls and hit her head. So the kids take her in, and they're all like, "You're gonna be one of us now because you're fast and quick on your feet and stuff like that." And she's all like, "No, I have a home and I have a job and blah 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 and stuff like that." Also, Hetty wants to be with her mom for the holidays, but she can't because her mom abandoned her for like the second time. Even though that does not happen in the books. Season 1 through 3 is pretty close to the books, but by you get to 4, that's when they start going in their own direction. So they're looking for Hetty, can't find her. And then so as Miss Calendar, and so Gideon, he's looking for Hetty. So he's running the streets. And so he leaves Miss Calendar and the older lady by themselves. And they're scared and frightened because they're in like these dark alleys. There are tons of homeless people around. And basically it's like this. Back in these days, it was not safe to walk the streets. If you walk the streets, you're either gonna get mugged, attacked, something. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how dangerous it was back then. Just think of New York from back in the days when New York was first formed and all those gangs and stuff. That's basically how England was and stuff back then. And so like they meet these older lady who's coughing up like bad, and this younger girl who's like her mom. And so the older lady who's with Miss Calendar, she is like, when I say she's an aristocrat, she does not like the poor whatsoever. She looks down on everybody. She thinks everybody's filthy because she's the lady and all this other stuff and rich. But she doesn't really have a fortune. Her money comes from Mr. Calendar. And so the lady's all like, "Oh, you know, my mom, she's sick and has frostbite on her toes, and you don't want that to happen to me," and blah, blah. And so they let them know that they have no more money because they just got mugged. Well, these two women, I ain't happy to hear that. They both stand up. The mom no longer is coughing. She is like spry and everything. They got conned. And so they corner the two women. And they're like, oh, well, you're going to give us something after all. And so basically, you see the next scene, Mrs. Calendar and the older lady walking out in the other woman's clothes. They stole their clothes. So they're even more frightened because they had their money stolen, they're lost, and they had their clothes taken from them. Needless to say, it is not a good trip back home when they try to get back home. The older lady tells Miss Calendar, walk with your head up and be proud. We're in a bad situation. And Mrs. Calendar, who has never been in a situation like this, she is really just like disturbed. And so every time they pass people on the streets, they're passing people who are gentlemen and ladies, and they look down on them. And they're like, ew, you smell. I kid you not. And so that's how people were back then. If you were that of a higher class or somewhat middle, you look down on a lower class. That's just like how it was back in those days. So when they find the constable, they try to explain what happened, but he's all like, right, you're a lady. So you know what? I got a good place for you to sleep tonight. The jail cell. He just straight up takes them to the jail cell without even believing what they're saying or trying to like figure out what's going on. That's how crooked the cops were back then and stuff. And this cop is very crooked. So the little girl that stole early on, I told you about that, where she got captured and the boy got away. He takes that little girl to the workhouse. There he hooks up with the woman who works at the workhouse. She's a woman who gets by getting bribes and stuff like that. She's poor, she's lives there, she doesn't like working there. It's an endless job where it's pretty much for life. And so like she tells Sheila, it's your job to watch after her and all this other stuff. The girl doesn't want to be there at all. And the man the cop dude tells the woman who works there, if she starts to yap about her gang and where they're at, you let me know and stuff, because he wants to bust them. And so Hetty, she wakes up finally. Oh, I already told you that part. The boy said, you're gonna work for us and stuff like that. Well, in comes their boss, and Hetty overhears her voice before she sees the woman. Hetty is scared. Why? Because it's the matron. The matron from the orphanage. The one who made Hetty's life like a nightmare. The matron, seriously, like if this was season 4, the matron probably would have killed Hetty and stuff like that. But it's a Christmas holiday, so you ain't gonna have none of that. And so she basically tells Hetty, oh, I can't believe I finally get to meet you again. I knew you would never last working in high society and everything, because you're one of us, Hetty. You're like scum and all this other crap. And so it's like, don't you worry, Hetty. I'm going to take good care of you. She hates Hetty to death. But for some bizarre reason, Hetty decides to stay there and fall asleep there because her head still hurts. Plus, she's worried about them kids that Matron has. Matron has her own gang of pickpockets and stuff. And so, like, at some point in time, she wakes up again and they talk some more. And then Matron goes off with the boys so they can go start robbing some people. Gideon, he cannot find Hetty, but he assumes that she probably went to the workhouse to look for Sheila. He finds Sheila. Sheila's all like, she's not here, but it's getting late and Gideon needs a place to sleep because they're too far from their home. So Sheila dresses him up as one of the workers. Now, the people in the workhouse, they're all female and stuff. And so, he's dressed up as a girl and he has to sleep there overnight. So in the next morning, they can't sneak out exactly because the keeper dude, he stays near like the door is locked. And so they have to wait till he's like gone and stuff. So she tries to sneak him out, But then the little girl who's in that gang, she's all like, take me with you or I'll rat both of y'all out. And Sheila's all like, you will never do that. But then the lady who works there overhears them. And then they pretend like Gideon's a girl, but she knows he ain't no girl when she looks him in the face, but she lets him stay anyway. And then she opens the door and leaves it cracked open. And I was just kind of like, oh, maybe she's being nice and gonna let them escape. Nope. After the little girl takes off running and disappears, they can't find her. So Sheila and Gideon, they go to the lady. Now, like, what's the name? Escaped. And like, yeah, I bet she's halfway across town now. And so she did it on purpose so the girl can go back to her gang. So she told, like, the constable dude. And Sheila, so Gideon's been trying his best to, like, um, get Sheila to come home, but she doesn't want to. At some point in time, oh, I forgot to mention the calendar house. So at the calendar house, it's like Christmas Day, and Constance and Edmund, they wake up and they're not there. So he tells Agnes and what's the name? Agnes and Jack to go look for everybody else because nobody has come back home yet. Lizzie and Flo do absolutely nothing in this episode, which is quite a shame. And especially because they're two girls of color and they're both mixed with black and white. And it's kind of like they could at least do something, but they do absolutely nothing. But at least Gideon gets to do something to black dude and stuff, Oh yeah, speaking of which, okay, this is a period piece and they do try, it's a loose adaptation, but they do try to like keep to how things were back in the day, except for when it comes to race. Basically, you can be whatever race you are and you're treated like equal. And that's great. I get tired of seeing black people get dumped on. So in this show, you'll see like a lot of black people who are related to white people. That's basically every black person you see in the show is related to like a white person. Oddly enough, which I knew was a big problem back in England in those days, because even back in the 50s and the 60s, that was a big no-no and stuff. From watching Call the Midwife. So anyway, they're in town, they're looking for them, they decide to go to the workhouse. They figure Hetty would be with Sheila, but then they find Gideon and Sheila, and then after they find out the lady ratted out the girl in the gang, they all leave. And the woman tells her, yeah, whatever, Sheila, you'll never make nothing of yourself. Like, they all say that, but you'll be back here watching, you'll see. Because she knows she's stuck there, you know what I'm saying? And so they're like looking, and they're looking for her, and at some point, while in the jail cell, the two women hated the calendar women. They're like these people coughing and all this other stuff, and they're miserable and stuff until all of a sudden the two women who robbed them comes in with another cop. And so they're all like, oh, it's you two. Somehow the cop just believes, this is a different cop, and he believes them that, oh, they robbed those two women and stuff, so they're allowed to leave. But when they leave, they still keep on their dirty, nasty clothes. And so they decide they're gonna walk all the way back home and stuff. And so at this point in time, the cops have now raided the place that Hetty and the kids were at. So they all take off running. The matron takes off with two of the kids, and she tells them, like, the rest of the kids are your problem now, Hetty. You take care of them, and I'll take care of these two, and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And Hetty actually has a warmth in her heart, and she tells matron, come back with us with the calendar house. She's all like, I could never go there after what she did in season 4. So matron leaves and everything. I think matron shows back up in the 6th season, and you gotta be kidding me. So anyway, I'll get to that in the rundown review. So anyway, Hetty, she's walking the streets with the kids, and then all of a sudden she finds Jack and Gideon and all of them. Now this is the part that gets kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow that's a little too convenient for my taste. As soon as Hetty and the work staff are headed back home to the calendar house with all these kids, you see behind the kids are now the two calendar women. And it's just kind of like, that's a little convenient. They all made there at the same time. And then Edmund's all like, who are all these kids? And then the calendar women are like, yes, I want to know that too. It's kind of like, dude, you just walked in behind them. Why didn't you ask when you was outside? So Hetty explains and all this, and they're like, okay, fine, whatever. We take these kids in and have some Christmas dinner and all this other stuff. So they sing, they dance, they eat. And Hetty tells her to pull the wishbone, Miss Calendar. She does it, and she's like, make a wish. And then next thing you know, she wishes for her husband to be there. And then all of a sudden, poof, he's there. Not magically poof, but yeah, he just shows up. And it's just like a little too convenient, wrapped up in a nice little bow. And then Hetty turns to the camera and says, Merry Christmas. And then it ends. And what's ironic is in the 6th season, these kids are nowhere to be found. So it's kind of like, well, what happened to them? Chances are they're in the little orphanage place and stuff. But yeah, it was a nice little Christmas special, I have to say. Like it was a even though towards the end it got wrapped up in a nice little bow, it was still like a solid, good episode that was written from A to C. Even the musical numbers weren't that bad, and they can actually sing. Like at first when they started singing in the first song, it was a little rocky, but then after that I'm just like, whoa, dude, that's pretty awesome. Now in this one song at the workhouse, it was a big musical number, but people's mouths didn't sync up to when they sung. I don't know if it was dubbed or they just couldn't do good at lip syncing or what, but yeah, like it was like a really solid, really good episode. I can't wait to start talking about the rest of this series because it's nothing like this Christmas special. This is a very sad, depressing show. And it has its just desserts when you get to like the 4th season. But then, of course, every season they just dump on Hetty. But yes, this is a very, very good show. Now, this is a British show. And it's ironic how I found it. I found it on YouTube by mistake. And then I started randomly watching just like random episodes out of order. And then I'm like, okay, I need to start watching it in order. But then they didn't have every episode because the YouTube police took it down. But then now there is a app, a TV show app. I'm trying to think. It's called BUYUTV. And it's an app. You can go online or you can go your phone and TV, stuff like that. I think it's a religious app or something like that. But they have this on there. They also had this knight in shining armor thing that's actually pretty funny. They mostly have reality shows and sports stuff, but they do have a few regular shows. I haven't watched their other regular shows yet, but I'm going to. And ironically, Millie from Odd Squad, she has her own TV show on there. And she looks so different now, dude. She's like so like a grown teenager with like her hair's down now, and it's just like I didn't even know like that was her because she doesn't look like Mrs. O no more, and it's insane. All right, so, but yeah, Hetty Feather, great show, and every season and the Christmas special is on that app. I'll link it below. Bah humbug, that was a good episode. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you later. Bye.